So I was born in Tacoma, and my parents were divorced when I was about 4. I remember having just a pretty happy-go-lucky childhood. We lived on the street where it was like the Brady Bunch, and everybody knew everybody, and you could go out and play all day and come home at night, and there was no worries about the neighborhood. This is like all my old stomping grounds, where I'd walk up and down this hill. When my mom decided to move to Oregon with her boyfriend, we left when I was probably about 10 or 11, and I had about 2 miles of beach and a dog. Then we moved back to Tacoma. And I remember just going back to school, and a lot of my friends had different friends, and a lot had changed in the couple years that I was gone. So I was just kind of trying to find my fit, and I remember just being friends with everybody and just trying to look for that connection. It's my junior high up here that I went to. It's kind of where I would go to school and skip school. This is my elementary here, across the street. I went there most all my elementary years except for one. As I was trying to kind of find my way, my mom broke up with her boyfriend, and I remember having a lot of time on my hands. And there'd be evenings where I would come home and have the house to myself. And one night, the troublemaker of the neighborhood, Daryl, showed up with this guy, Todd. Todd was pretty much quiet the whole time, and we started becoming friends. And he invited me to go out and hang out with him one night. So I remember that night, I was probably 13 then. It was the first night I was just introduced into alcohol, just standing at a phone booth with my friends, trying to down it as fast as I could. Yeah, it was a pretty exciting time. I was, getting closer to Todd, and he still was having relationships with his son's mom. It became kind of like competition for me, and there was times where her and I ended up in a fist fight, and he was kind of in the middle of all that. I just had to make sure it was about him and I. The guys were good-looking guys. They had girls flocking after them. During this time, I don't know who actually was influencing them, but they started this thing where the girls around them would go out and juke. So juking was basically a promise of something to get something. So, maybe I talked somebody into getting, some beer for me, and then would just run off without paying them. Other girls, they would pose as prostitutes and act like they were going to go with them, and they would steal their money and leave. So it was basically just a form of robbery. I was starting to just feel like if I didn't kind of act quick and do what everybody else was doing, that I would start losing that connection with Todd. I was planning how I was going to stick around, and I actually planned on when I would go out and prostitute. So I'm 15 years old, and it's May Day, May 1st, 1985. And I finally made up my mind that I was going to go see what it was all about and try it out. I decided to go out with a couple of the girls, and they pretty much showed me how it was done. And I don't think we were out there long. It was maybe 6 or 7 in the evening, and a group of 4 military guys picked us up. Somehow I just remember we all crammed in there, and we went back to a hotel where they were staying. And I remember just being in shock of oh my gosh, this isn't just these girls, planning on taking their money once they think that they're going to sleep with them. They were doing, sexual acts, and I don't remember exactly what they were doing, but I just remember that stuff was going on. And the guy that I was with, I just felt sorry for me, because I think he could tell that I really didn't want to do anything, and just gave me the money and hung out with me, and we just talked. This is it. This is the corner. That's where it first all took place. It's a busy intersection, and people would just pretty much drive around the corner, and it was kind of nothing but apartments back there, so nobody really looked at it too much as being suspicious. It seems sort of surreal. It's almost like you feel like there's like lost souls right there. I would go for days and not come home. I remember several times during this period where I would lose all my clothes because they would get left behind at a hotel somewhere. And I occasionally would go out. Nobody was really forcing me to go out, but I was just kind of trying to find that just way to stay around and be a contributing factor to the group and costs of, food and hotel and, party kind of things. I remember several times like getting picked up, and I don't know what they did with me. I mean, I remember going to Raymond Hall. I remember still going to school. It just all was like a collaboration of all that going on at once until school became too much. I couldn't stay up all night and then go to school. So at some point between, probably around 15, that I packed up and just basically was living in and out of motels with these guys. So kind of the group of people I was around were becoming a little more close-knit, and everybody had pretty much kept going on with this going on. The girls were going out on a regular basis. I don't quite remember how much that I was going out there, or a lot of that time just, maybe that's when I started to blank out about even being out there. I just remember the next step happened fairly quickly. It was starting to get too hot around here, where basically there was too many cops out and we were evading police more. I remember the next step was we decided to go up to Seattle and try it out up there. My journey took me all over the United States, from Tacoma back and forth to Seattle and Portland, and then to Hollywood, then to San Diego. From San Diego, I went to Washington, D.C., New York, then ended up in New Jersey. And at that point, I was starting to fear I was getting in a situation that I might not be able to get out of. I was looking for a way to escape, and I finally got an opportunity to be by myself. I was left money to pay rent, and I just took the money and got on a bus and came home and never looked back. I see the young girl that's lost, and she may feel like she has nowhere to go, and she's looking for somebody to start caring about her, or to feel like she isn't forgotten, that somebody's fighting for her, and that she doesn't have to continue living a life that isn't meant for her. The problem is still going on in Tacoma, and worse than it was back, in the 80s when I was out there. There's young girls, there's adults, there's still a huge problem, and people are not knowing what to do about it. So a guy was honking at me, and I seen him pull over, so I thought this is a perfect opportunity, because I don't need to. I see an opportunity to talk to these guys too. I mean, somebody needs to rehabilitate them as well, or to make them understand the situation. So he pulls over, and I walked up to him and I said, "So, are you looking for a girl?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, let me tell you about who I am." I said, "Do you realize that these girls are traumatized out here, and they're basically getting raped over and over, and that they're going home to pimps that beat them if they don't bring home enough money?" He's like, "No, I didn't. I didn't know what's going on." And I said, "There's always going to be the distraction there for these girls." I told him to be a better man. I gave him the warnings of what could happen to him. If I can take the demand away and make these guys not want to get these girls, that's the only way I feel like I'm trying to make a difference. And I warned him. I told him, this is why I'm out here. This is who I am.